What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of the Firewall. I almost messed it up, but I didn't. Where we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall, as well as we highlight the latest in cybersecurity news and vulnerabilities. So my name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes
What's up? What's up?
and LeVon Maynard.
How the hell are you?
All right, one of these episodes, I'm gonna get it right on the first take, I swear. But this week, or I should say this episode, we are going to cover some kind of shadowy news. Shannon, tell us a little ghost story about what's going on at the Pentagon. But make sure you stay tuned throughout the week. So if you missed last episode, we discussed some Apple news. LeVon talked about how much of a triumph Apple is and how much he loves and he wants to become an Apple user. We denied him. We said no, never. You can never join us now. And then Wednesday we should have an interview up or Ask Us SP. Thursday will be the discussion, and then Friday, of course, will be the rundown. So with that being said, I give it to Shannon.
So I want to say this before I go into this story, right? I think I'm being set up. All right, everybody, listen to this, okay? So last week it was the FBI thing, right? So FBI coming after me is what's gonna end up happening. And this one I go into, I'm like, okay, we're gonna see. Hey, if I disappear, y'all know what okay?
There might be something to it. I didn't think about it, but
That's right. He's like,
you're the fall guy.
You know what
Right.
I mean? But anyway, this article's from the Washington Post, right? And the title of this one is "Minutes Before Trump Left Office, Millions of the Pentagon's Dormant IP Addresses Sprang to Life." So what they're saying is that right before President Biden was sworn in, all of a sudden there was a bunch of IP space that was owned by the Pentagon that suddenly came up. And it was for a company based out of Florida named Global Resource Systems LLC, right? So this company, what's a little crazy about this, right, is that they had claimed 56 million IP addresses that are owned by the Pentagon, right? Pentagon had them for years that they were doing nothing with. And then all of a sudden, this company that nobody really knows anything about, Global Resource Systems LLC, all of a sudden has control of this IP space, right? So cut forward, this was back in January, right? January 20th was when the inauguration was. So cut forward 3 months now, the total's nearly 175 million, which is like 6% of the traditional section of the IPv4 IP space, right? That's a lot. You start thinking about that. You're like 6%, like owned by one company. That's a little bit much. Now, where you can go with this, right? The Pentagon says, hey, it's just for, different type of research and things of that nature, testing things out. But when you start to think about this and you think about what else is going on in the world, it's kind of hard not to see this as kind of I don't want to say a training ground, but this could be the start of, man, this is what gets me in trouble, right? This is with the FBI and now this could be like the start of us maybe starting to do more offensive actions against different foreign states that have been in the news lately, which we have addressed in this podcast, and you should go back and look at. This is something it's very drastic, and it's something that kind of slid under the radar. Like I found this in a couple other spots, but it was mostly not to say the Washington Post is small, right? But you didn't see it in a lot of mainstream sites. I saw it in Ars Technica and different like technical publications and whatnot. But this hasn't really made news like that. I didn't see it back in January. I just saw it this week, where all of a sudden it picked up, right? So they flew under the radar for 3 months with this. But again, man, I know I'm making myself a target, but what do you do with all this space, right? What do you do with all these IP addresses, right? I can't see this being for like testing purposes, research purposes, or something like that. To me, it just seems like it's going to be something of an offensive nature that we may start doing against other foreign nations because of things that have happened, to us and in the world, right? But yeah, this one is, man, this is not something to turn our head at, right? This is something we probably need to pay attention to, right? Now, mind you, it's the IPv4 space right now, which we're running out of, and we're going to go to IPv6 soon, to where this 6% won't be such a big a big chunk, right? No, let me not say IPv6 soon. IPv6 is out there, but it's not widely utilized. I'll say that. But yeah, this is something to keep an eye on right here, man. This is something I'm actually going to follow to be like, okay, I got you, global resources. I got Pam, I got my eye on you. You know what I mean? But LeVon, what you got on this, man?
Man, I don't want to disappear, so I'm going to make no comment. I'm just going to stay silent. No joking.
Like it was him. It was LeVon.
It was me. I don't want to get hemmed up by all of a sudden some Pentagon task force. No, but I was looking at the articles. Like it's very interesting. I mean, like all these IPs like sprung to life, and a little bit further down the article, it says here, where is it at? It says that the change is the handiwork of an elite Pentagon unit known as the Defense Digital Service, which reports directly to the Secretary of Defense. The DDS bills itself as a SWAT team of nerds tasked with solving emergency problems for the department and conducting experimental work to make big technological leaps for the military. So, yeah, so this is just like, it's just very interesting. Like if this was like some sort of, I think you kind of touched on it, that, you know, they use these IPs for, you know, for cyber, you know, any kind of like cyber related like operations, maybe to test things out, to maybe even spy on other countries or do things like this. Like I can only, you know, imagine what they're using these IP spaces for. But for all these millions of IPs, like you said, 6% to be just spring up out of nowhere and be available or to be like in use. It just seems like you know, just like I have no idea why they need that many in the first place. I mean, unless they were trying to like, yeah, because you got to imagine, like, even I don't know, even these organizations like these defense departments aren't going to be that many people. I don't think they're that big, as far as they don't have like millions of people like running these you know, these departments. So it's not like they're gonna have like everybody gets an IP for the device and like for the computer and all this kind of stuff, but it has to be used for, I guess, like this defense digital service team. They must use it for like, you know, solving problems and testing things out and trying to like you know, make some technological leaps for the military so they can try to do some crazy, like, I don't know. I can't even imagine what you do with so many IPs. Really, it just kind of boggles my mind, really. But
And here's the thing: their team is small. Like the DDS team is,
yeah,
it's only 82 people, and it's engineers, data scientists, computer scientists, like 175 million IPs. Like
yeah. Like, what you gonna
82.
do with all that?
So
Hey, just come to my
yeah.
side and get kidnapped with me, LeVon. Come
Right.
on.
Because that's a good point too. Because I mean, I think you touched on it too, that IPs are like in general like becoming a hot commodity because IPv4 is becoming less availability. It's getting used up because we have so many devices out there. Got all these IoT devices, got these laptops, cell phones, everything like that. Everybody has like multiple devices, and uh, you know, everything's connected to the network. So the fact that they have this big collection of IPs that could potentially be used elsewhere and would be, you know, expensive. It's like worth a lot of money on the market. Because as you touched on as well, that IPv6 is kind of being the replacement for IPv4 because as it becomes exhausted, IPv6 can come in place that it's pretty much, it's almost inexhaustible. I think they said it's is a IP for like every grain of sand and something like that. Some
something
crazy,
ridiculous, yeah.
yeah, some crazy amount of like IPs with the IPv6. But um, this is like this is an interesting story, and I'm curious what how it develops, and if somebody tries to like, hey, can we buy these IPs from you, Microsoft or Google or Apple, or somebody tries to take these IPs and say, hey, look, can we use them for, you know, for our cloud services or something like that, or whatever they're going to use it for. Um, but yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. You have some thoughts on it as well, Ryan?
Yeah. So they talk most about the seeking new vulnerabilities and things of that nature. So they talk about more of the pull side of BGP, right? So if I control 6% of the internet, right, of the entire internet, you have to go through me to reach other destinations. So that's where the BGP part goes into, right? So they can start pulling data. They can start to basically monitor, police, break down data, find analytics. Like they may see vulnerabilities coming before they actually have a chance to do something. So that's great. So from the DCO perspective, like the defensive cyber operations perspective, it makes sense to me. Why we had them for so long, we just now cut them on. Maybe there was a plan already being put in place. Because obviously it's not something you could just flip on like a switch, to my understanding. Because you saw it had to grow in number of IPs, but then they're not talking about the offensive side of the house. Like, yes, we'll control more of the gateways. We can see more people's traffic, maybe even police other nations' traffic before it gets to us. But can you imagine a distributed denial of service attack coming from 6% of the internet? We could effectively shut down cities, maybe multiple cities at one time, a state, if you will, with that much traffic. Like we can generate a lot of traffic by controlling 6% of the internet. So that's the part I'm not talking about. So perhaps because other countries are already showing that their offensive cyber capabilities are near peer, right? So you have like Russia and China doing some crazy stuff. And then when you talk about the whole battle between 5G with China versus us, and then the whole products being made in China and potentially having the ability to sanction or embed things, backdoors and things of that nature. But now we control at least 6% of the internet. So I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. So I think both defensive and offensive. So DCO, OCO. I think this is starting to help us get back in line with our near peers. So I like it. Like turn. So again, I'm the person who I like when I'm doing it. I don't like when nobody does it to me. Like they don't advertise how much of the internet is controlled by China or Russia or North Korea in this article. So I honestly don't know. But 6%, even though it sounds like a small number, is sizable, especially when it's all aimed at a focal point, or it's all being advertised to pull your data in. I think it could potentially give us a leg up on the competition, so to speak. So from a homeland security perspective, it sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's interesting, and so you might have to help me understand it. So now that, because it looks like this company now owns these IP spaces, so it's not part of Pentagon anymore. So it's no longer associated with the government. So now it's just like
it seems like a shell. Yeah, because I don't think they at no point do they say that they sold it to them. They just said that IPs that were formerly, like, because you know how you have IPs and blocks. Back when DARPANET was out there, like we probably owned the majority of the internet, right? All of the major IP space came from us, and then it was what's the word, federated to everyone else. Like, hey, you can have this chunk, you can have that chunk, etc. But you always hold on to a finite resource. So apparently, like, because they say 6% now, like who's to say we don't own another 2-3% out there that we have not cut on yet. So not only are we starving a finite resource by holding on to those IPs, because like you said, IPv4 is running dry. We've been talking about IPv6 for like 20 years now. Like I've been doing this for 20 years, and before I came on the scene, they were already talking about IPv6 was going to be a thing. It exists, but everybody's like double stacking. Like you have an IPv4 address and an IPv6 address, but no one understands. Like IPv6 addresses are too damn big.
Like, yeah, they're pretty big.
It's not easy to give somebody your IPv6 address. Like it's all machine to machine. But where was I going with this? I just started rambling.
That's all right. But all I heard was shell company, and now we're all getting kidnapped together.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Right. So I think that maybe these are leased, or that they're allowing them to use them for the advertising and mining of data. But I don't believe they've given them these addresses, because like the article says, like this would be worth billions of dollars. I don't think that company sprang out of nowhere to acquire them. I think that company was created to utilize them, so to speak. So I think it's like a symbiotic relationship. Like they exist only to do these things with these IPs. I don't think they're entities themselves.
And there's no real history on the company. Like there's no real history on the company itself. Like what has it been doing before January, right? Like,
right. Right. I think it's just it was stood up to do these things. And now like people out there actually monitor this stuff. Like I wouldn't know the difference. Like it's not my job, but it was alarming to someone. It was like, hey, this block of IPs that have not been used in probably since the dawn of the internet all of a sudden cut on, and now all this traffic is being pulled their way. So that's what caused them to write the article and then to start to do the investigation. But again, as long as it's on my side of the house, I'm cool with it. Like if we're pulling other people's other countries' data to then parse through it to make sure it's not problematic, I'm cool with it. The minute that it were to flip the other way, like I'm not down with that. Like don't look at me and what and my data, like protect me. But we talked about it last week with the FBI just shadowing in companies and removing web shells. Like there's a lot happening all of a sudden. Like we're not playing around when it comes to cyber any longer. But like Shannon was saying, Shannon Tynes was saying, who is watching the watchers? Like just to make sure this doesn't get flipped the other way around.
It's true. Wow. That's true.
Yeah, it's just my 2 cents. Like I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully this keeps developing. Hopefully they find solutions to things. Like now we can actually hopefully see Russia coming when they do decide to hit us with the next supply chain attack or something like that.
Right.
Hopefully this helps out.
Yeah.
But those are my 2 cents.
No, those are some good sense right there. That's some quality sense. No, but yeah, this is very interesting. We'll see how what comes of it. It's an interesting topic for sure. But I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to get hemmed up like Shannon's about to get.
Yeah, he's a done deal. So when you don't see him next week, we have a new host.
That's right.
On the show.
I just want y'all to know I will never go down alone. All right? I'm gonna be like Nino in court. I ain't going down by myself.
You pick the little girl up and start running like a shield. But no, I think that was a good topic. I think it's very interesting. I think that will continue to develop. Like it just hasn't caught wind yet because a lot of people don't understand. Like, what is the IPv4 address, a 6 address? Like, who really knows where these addresses come from? Who owned them prior to? Like, it's not mainstream stuff. So I think something has to happen, right? So this has to catch a crook, and then people are like, oh, I'm so glad the government's doing this. Until they start spying on us, then you're just like, oh.
Like, oh, you're doing that.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
but I'm always optimistic. Like I think this is obviously not obviously, but I believe this to be a sign of us taking a proactive stance because the rest of the world is doing it. So we definitely have to come on board. But with that being said, I think that wraps this show. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, LeVon. Remember, you can hit us up on the website, so www.theothersideofthefirewall.com, where you can get to all of our social media, which is also in the description. You can hit me up personally at RY Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy on LinkedIn, TikTok, Clubhouse, and Instagram. And LeVon?
Hit me up on the Twitters at LeVon Maynard.
There it is. So y'all take care and save your IPs.
That's right.
I don't know. All right, peace.
Take care.